Navigating the swamp. That's pretty much what Mr. President Trump is doing right now too. It's probably a good depiction of him right now. Hey, I'm in the swamp. I got my nose above the water. What direction next? Boy, they're really going after this guy, right? And this is one thing I keep thinking about. You got to watch out from what comes out of left field or the curveball, because I know people are talking about November 4th and all these things in Korea and blah blah blah. If there's one thing that keeps, there's always something that can create havoc or whatever to get people's attention on something else. Um, to deflect attention from somebody that wants to get away with something, right? Just give you a general principle here without mentioning any names. And one thing I keep thinking about is, we've been on a long, 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 long stretch where the equities markets have been very high, the commodity prices have been very low, along with silver, except for palladium. And I think I'm the only silver channel out there, and I've done what I said I did. Is I invested a lot in, almost as much in palladium dollar wise as I did in silver. And this was a while ago, back when palladium was under 200 bucks an ounce. Now, I don't know if it's such a great deal right now, but I was right about that, that's for sure. Now, I do think, though, I'm still sticking with my basic premise that when oil prices go up greatly, that's when silver and gold is going to go up greatly, extreme amounts. And the only way oil prices are going to really rocket like crazy is when there's a major conflict in the Middle East. When's that going to happen? That I don't know. That's the whole thing. If there's a major conflict in the Middle East, if they just reduce the oil supply, the global oil supply by 2%, well, that will astronomically raise the price of a barrel of crude oil. And I know gasoline is only, I think 60% of gasoline, the price of gasoline is crude oil, but you'll see them jack the price up at the pump by ridiculous amounts because they can. Now, it's interesting, with the 2016 election, too. Could you imagine if Hillary Clinton looked like this woman on a motorcycle here? She would have won by a landslide. No personality there. No looks, no personality. I guess if she was younger or something, maybe she would have made it through, or she acted nice. But it's, I swear to God, it's not even. I know what people talk about, the different issues in the politics, but if a person can look good and act nice, that gets them a hell of a lot of points, and you don't need that many points to win. She just doesn't have. She never had that. Despite all the other stuff I think about her that's really bad, if she looked like this and she was the exact same person and she smiled more, she would have won. Good thing she doesn't look like that. But that's just how it works. But let's just say this. Woe is to them who think that the status quo is going to keep going, because I'm of the opinion, I'm not a doom and gloomer, but everything is in cycles. There's boom and bust, boom and bust. And there's the other thing is, you have to stick with basic principles. Now, two of the biggest civilizing, boy, I know some people don't like me saying this, but two of the biggest civilizing forces in this world over ancient history was the Jewish nation and the Roman nation. And I know they clashed too in 70 AD especially, but that was unfortunate because you had that crazy Emperor Nero at that time. If he wasn't emperor, I don't think there would have been that kind of problem, but unfortunately that's what happened. But two of the biggest civilizing forces in this world were the Jewish nation and the Roman Empire, or the Roman Republic, let's put it that way. But it's like, what happened? It happened with the Jewish nation, it happened with the Romans. It's like, when you're sticking with your moral code, you're strong. When you get away from that, it doesn't look like you become weak right away, but you eventually do become weak and vulnerable to your enemies. And that's really what's going on in the United States today. If you really want to put it in a very simple terms, it's like some of the stuff that's going on, it's some of the type of corruption that we have going on at the federal level, state level, and likely even county levels is so beyond over the top that I don't think things are going to be continuing like the status quo that we expect for long. So, just hang loose for the outcome, because I think when things do come down, it's going to go back to basics, and some of the most basic things are going to be worth a lot more money, especially like food. Food's going to be worth big bucks, and I've been saying that I think silver, not as the investment where people think like, I have these shiny coins, I'm going to walk into a store with shiny coins, and I'm going to buy something because everybody's going to start recognizing it as money. What I think where silver is going to come on strong, and I've been saying this several times, is that when people recognize it as having medicinal value, antibiotic value, and also the ability in the case of ionic silver to produce stem cells as much as the body needs, well, then people are going to say, hey, this has practical value, I want some of that, even if it's just a couple ounces. And there isn't an ounce to go around, even from what we have in a world supply. There isn't even an ounce to go around for each man and woman and child that we have in the United States. So it's got to, if people realize, hey, this could save my life, this could have a lot of practical value, they're going to say, I want it, Just like putting gas in your bike or your car or something like that. I mean, it's something that you're really going to have. But, everything out there, everything out there is a diversion. And I see this not just with the big media, but sometimes I look at, God, I just can't believe, I just, I guess maybe I live in a different world than most people that are on YouTube, but I look even on YouTube and I'm saying to myself, what is, sometimes I look at what's trending. I have absolutely no interest in what's trending on YouTube, believe it or not. I guess I fit a niche audience or something like that. I usually look for more practical things. Usually it's health stuff or something. Usually I get interested in a lot of that stuff. But that's usually like a lot of stuff I watch on YouTube when I watch videos. But a lot of stuff I already know, but sometimes I pick up something here and there that says, oh, that's interesting. But, most things are actually a temporary diversion. And I think pretty much people don't realize it, but they're living in a bubble. And I think there's some dire consequences coming around. I mean, I put out a few videos about the predictions at Deagle.com, which is a responsible site. It's not a conspiratorial site. It's about, it's long rumored to be a CIA front site or whatever. I don't know if that's true, but they just really talk about, the forecast strengths of the GDP of nations 10 years out, the military expenditures, the purchasing power parity, and things like that. I mean, they got some dire predictions for the United States. I don't think they're accurate on that, but the fact that they got some ridiculously dire predictions tells me that, at a minimum, I'm agreeing that we are going to see an economic downturn. It's a slowdown, and considering that Trump's got a lot of enemies. Now, I was a guy that was never really on board with him, but boy, my opinion of him has been boosted exponentially just recently now, by him actually releasing those JFK files. I was like, wow. But to me, I also look at it like this, it's putting a lot of people on the run right now. That people are starting to add up 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and saying, hey, look, making all these connections with a lot of other things, not just from what happened 50-something years ago, 54 years ago, but also, what happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago, a few years ago, and even recently. And people are starting to suspect things. Well, I look at that and I say to myself, the people that are really running the show behind the scenes, they're running scared, and if they're going to pull a diversion, It may be pulling a plug on the equities markets, because I tell you right now, the equities markets are basically propped up by a bunch of web bots trading with each other. I think everything out there is just a bunch of funny money. It really is. And there's a lot of other things I could think of. Maybe an EMP could happen. You know what I mean. Blame it on somebody else and blah, the usual scam, right? But whatever you do, though, it's like you got to stick with the most basic fundamentals. Um, and you think about it. Okay, this is a motorcycle. This is a flathead Harley Davidson from the early 40s, whatever the hell this is, or the 30s. 30s probably, right? And at the time, this was something ultra modern. Maybe this, you know what I'm saying? My point I'm making here is that if you have to take a step back and go back 70, 80 years in your lifestyle, the way you live, well, that's not going to be so bad. That's very, 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 very much survivable, and you can be happy. You know, we live in an illusionary world with electronic communications, whereby people are on their smartphones all day or their computers all day, and it's not really the real world that you live in. So, if you turn the tide back 70, 80 years, you're just going to go back into a real world, and it's not going to be the end of the world. So, I'm not pushing doom and gloom here. I'm just saying, as you might want to prepare for a simpler time and not, be expecting things to happen and go exactly as they will, have been in the future. That there's going to be a downturn. But if you go with the flow and you adapt, you're going to be fine. Now, as far as the price of silver, it's always been the axiom that tensions in the Middle East, and especially major conflicts in the Middle East, are going to drive up the price of oil, because even 1% of the oil market being taken off the global market is going to drive oil up exponentially. Then gold's going to go up, then silver. That's really what's going to drive things. It's not going to be the shortage of silver and all this crap. Maybe that's going to have a play in it. But basically, the oil markets are going to drive things. And right now, they've been trying to keep the price of oil down extremely low to cause havoc in Russia. That's really what they're doing. I'm just telling you, it's what it is. The Russians are right about that stuff. There is a game going on to keep the price of oil, the global price of oil, down low, because that's their cash cow. I think it's 60% of the money coming in from into the coffers of Russia from exports is coming from crude oil. So by keeping that oil price down, that keeps them in a hurt locker for cash. That's why the prices are low. Obviously, Putin isn't getting along with the globalists or something. I don't know what the deal is, but we all know that. We all know this, okay? We definitely all know this. But what I'm looking at is there could be a price explosion in just over. It's hard to predict when, but it can happen overnight. It could be in the near future. And I think there's something else that's a curveball that I knew about this, and I swear to God, I know some people disagree with me on this, but one thing I think, one of the most important religious events we ever had, I guess in all time, and it's actually in modern times, was in October 1917 with the appearance of Mary, the miracle of the sun, which was predicted by Mary, or predicted by the lady in white, if you don't believe in Mary, or whoever that was. And the message, especially that was given to the kids about punishment from God to mankind for its sins, and that wars and economic depressions were basically punishment by God to mankind for its sins. Well, that message, I think, was given in July or August of 1917. And that Russia specifically would be the instrument that would chastise mankind for its sins. I'm not saying that Russia would be the bad guy, but it would be an instrument chosen by God to chastise mankind for its sins. And you can almost see this coming up. Now, we're at the 100-year anniversary, or just past the 100-year anniversary, of the miracle of his son. You know, being that now it's November 1st, and the miracle of 2017, the miracle of his son was October 13th, 1917. There's a couple other things I can look at astrologically that we're coming into something else, another age. But we might be at this turning point where things are going to unravel. Like, and the thing is, I don't want to push the doom and gloom. It's like I said, if you got to go back to a simpler time, like in other words, if people could adjust, in other words, everybody got along and lived very fine in the 1930s, the 1940s, or the 1890s and 1850s. Everybody was able to survive and thrive during those times. Like, if we had to go back and not have as much conveniences that we could call conveniences today, it's not a problem as long as you adapt to it psychologically. It's not going to be a big problem. And that's where what I don't have faith in is a lot of our electronic media and our electronic world that we live in. I don't think that is going to be, I think there's going to be a major problem with a lot of that. And people are going to be looking at the basics: food, clothing, shelter. And that's really where silver is going to have a comeback, because not only can it be used as the poor man's gold, but also it has that medicinal value. And, you know, it's a pretty nice looking metal too. I mean, when you look at mesh silver, it's shiny, just like the chrome on this panhead hardtail chopper with the pipes hanging out like that. So, but you know, people do not, you know, people right now are living too much in a technological world. And I think that world is going to cave. I don't think it's going to be around forever. It's like you got to go back to old school and watch and look to the future, and stick right to the grassroots. People are not doing that. And you know, that's really what it comes down to with just about everything, including health. You know, people don't realize, they underestimate some of the simplest things, like sunlight and natural foods that are grown in the garden. They're always looking for a quick fix on everything, or how I can maybe buy these magic nutrition bars or something like that, and meals or something that, you know, can fix me and make me perfect and all this garbage. Whereas if you just went back to old school and gotten this outside exercise in sunlight and you grow your own food in the garden, you'd be that much better off without having. And how much would that cost you? Basically nothing. So I mean, that's really what I'm getting at. It's like you got to go back to old school, and everything is a type of a balancing act, because when you're looking at, well, let me just say this. This is me. You know, most of the people in Hollywood that are big, or have been big, or like, you know, the Oprah show. I mean, she has been no longer. Ellen DeGeneres or Jimmy Kimmel or some garbage. I don't even know what all the names are out there. I never watch any of their stuff. I don't watch one. I don't never watch any of it. If the average American, I don't watch NFL. If the average American was like me, all these people wouldn't even exist. I mean, I'll watch redneck truck restorations or something by some guy that's not, you know, and not one of those glossy ones where they have, you know, it's all faked out. But I'm talking about real people, you know. I will not dwell into anything that comes out from Hollywood. So I mean, you know, sometimes people bitch about, you know, the big corporate media or Hollywood, but I definitely don't contribute to them. I don't watch any movies. I don't watch any of the big prime TV shows or anything. I actually watch, like, I like YouTube in a lot of ways because I don't like what's trending on YouTube. I don't like the big names on YouTube. I never watch any of the big names. I watch all the little people. Or if you want to call them little people, I mean, I think they're just the good people. But that's how I go. But everything like is a balancing act, and like you don't want to be too much into any one thing, and that goes for the silver stuff too. Because I was always said that silver, boy, I used to get hammered on this way back when silver was doing great, and silver finally topped $30, and people were thinking it was too high and it was going more. That was years ago, right? At the end of 2010, and then in 2011 it started going up and up, and it was going to go to the moon. I was saying, it's a basic principle, and this is just because I work in a CPA firm for many years and work as an accountant for many years. It's like it's always been known as a high risk, potentially high reward investment. But I look at silver another way. I don't look at it from the money dollar angle, and I know the dollar angle is this is going to feed a dollar angle if it becomes common knowledge. But I look at it from the antibacterial, biological angle, where it can also help the body produce stem cells in the quantities needed by making ionic silver. That's what Dr. Robert Otto Becker did. He didn't realize what it was when he was regenerating limbs in rats and stuff. We're using a silver electrode with real low electricity. He didn't realize why that silver electrode was working. The platinum electrode wouldn't work. It had to be the silver electrode. It was producing ionic silver right at the site of the wound, which is producing stem cells, which was causing the body to regenerate tissue that was damaged and replace it in exactly what was missing or what was damaged. And then his funding got canked, and they stopped his funding. But that's an interesting point, because God, could you imagine if they start applying that technology to in the medical world all throughout? Like, in other words, a person has a problem with their heart or something. There's an area of their heart that's damaged, and they put a certain little tiny electrode in there, or they directed ionic silver right to that spot, and the heart just repaired itself by body regenerating stem cells right at that area, and on the exact amount that was needed. Or you had a major gash or something like that from an accident. It was a big open wound, and it was going to tore off half your leg or something, practically, and you were able to regenerate that. And this was like standard operating procedure for everywhere in the medical world. They'd be using silver left and right. It wouldn't just be an antibiotic, because it actually has the ability, ionic silver has the ability to generate stem cells in the body to repair tissue. That's a curveball that a lot of people don't know about. That's from work from Dr. Robert Otto Becker in the late 1970s. He talked about it in the book The Body Electric. But at the time he wrote that book, he didn't realize exactly what was going on. He found out later on that it was the ionic silver that was doing the stuff. It wasn't it was the microcurrent in the silver electrode, but he didn't realize why it was working. It was ionic silver. So I think that's something that's, if that word gets out and it starts getting applied in a lot of practical ways, because that could be anti-aging, longevity, and all this other garbage, the demand for silver is going to go like through the roof. Then, of course, the money will be there. But then you're not going to want to part with the stuff. I can tell you that right now, because you want to keep your stash on hand unless you got loads of it extra. But just like anything, you got to look for other angles, just like and go with different approaches. And that's what I like to do. And like I said, I was one of the few people that went into Palladium quite a bit. And that played out very well. I mean, look at Palladium today. It's over $900 an ounce. And I bought my stuff at $175. So that's why a lot of this stuff doesn't bother me. But everybody was telling me I was an idiot for doing that back then when I bought that stuff. Now, I don't know if it's a great deal today, but I do think it's still going to continue to go up because of tensions with Russia. And there's going to be more and more tensions with Russia because, what's going on. Everybody's, one side of the political aisle is blaming the other side of the political aisle that you're colluding with Russia, and I don't even want to go down that trail because the way they are right now with YouTube, you can't even say anything political for crying out loud. But you know what I mean, right? But that's not helping our relations with Russia right now. And the more tensions we have with Russia, you see the reason is because 41% or 43% of the world's supply of palladium comes from Russia, with the 39% of the world supply of palladium coming from Norilsk mine in northern Siberia. So if you don't have that, or if you have shaky ground for the supply out of Russia because tensions with Russia, that's the speculatory. Um, the people that speculate on palladium think it causes the price to go up. Because people think it's on shaky ground because we don't know what our relationship with Russia is long term. It's not so much necessarily the demand. It's like the fear of the long-term relationship with Russia, where most of the world's a lot of the world's palladium is coming out of, is causing the palladium price to go up. So that's another angle. Just like pink hair is another angle, right? Some people have blonde, some people have brunette, some people think red, some people think purple blue like the last one, some people think pink. Pink and blonde is cool too, anyway. But you gotta actually just chill out with a lot of stuff because um, when the problem is, this is another thing. What was that guy? He used to call him a grave dancer. Not that he does anything to do with graves, but he's the one that owned the Chicago Tribune. I had some videos out of him. I forgot what the hell his damn. God, I forgot the name. It's with a Z, I think. Jewish guy. But he says, it's like anytime you got something in your portfolio, you got to think, would you buy it right now? You know? And the other thing is, when something goes up really high in value and you like that investment, you're not going to want to get rid of it. Sam Zell. That's who I was thinking of. I was thinking of somebody else because I know another guy that's in Florida with a Z, and he was like a mega multi-millionaire guy that was working with another guy that was I worked for that did a lot of land investments here. It's Sam Zell. That's who I was thinking of. But you ever want to look at Sam Zell's words of wisdom? I got a video on that. This guy, his basic principles are like gold. They really are. They really are. And when silver does go up and emotions get really high, you're not going to want to sell it. You're going to be the same old game's going to happen. Same thing. I'm not going to sell all of it because I know that beyond the financial dollars and cents, there's some things about silver that are irreplaceable, which is antibiotic and stem cell regeneration. Why the hell would I want to get rid of all of it? No way in hell. Not for that reason. But I wouldn't be afraid to dump some of it. No problem. There's always real estate. Actually, real estate is one of your best investments going because you can regenerate money. I mean, sure, there's Harley Davidsons and classic cars and hot chicks and all that kind of stuff, but real estate is always a good investment. Like I just bought some real estate up in Tennessee, whatever, fine. And I might get some in North Georgia next year. But the people back when silver was really hot and heavy and really strong, they were knocking real estate. They're saying, oh, it's this and that. But, actually real estate, well, that's where Trump was in, except he's got a specific type of real estate. But, if you're actually smart today, probably farmland would be a very strong one, too, for investment. Because I think food prices are going to go up. And if you've got farmland with good aquifer underneath the land and it's not going to be too cold and be affected by the grand solar minimum as much as some areas of the country. That's going to probably be worth a hell of a lot of money because it produces. See, that's the problem with metals. They don't produce. Now, if you had a colloidal ionic silver machine and you were selling that stuff left and right, or you were, then you got raw material over there in the form of silver, and along with your distilled water, you got a product you can make from it, right? But in the case of land, the land really doesn't wear out. So, that's how I look at it, right? I mean, you got to look at what's your next capital investment. I personally wouldn't get another motorcycle. I know that. But I like bikes. But I personally wouldn't get another motorcycle, because I got one already. But, some people, whenever they make a lot of money on silver, whenever that happens, they will at one point in time. And like I said, it's going to occur when there's major tensions in the Middle East, and that causes, which will be a war. There's going to be some kind of war in the Middle East eventually. When that happens and some of the oil supply is taken off the market, oil prices are going to go up exponentially, along with gold prices, and then silver prices, and food prices, and zinc prices, and aluminum, and copper, nickel, palladium, platinum, gold, lead, you name it. All the commodities are going to go up, and the food. So that's how it's going to work. And they're not going to work exactly in unison, but you'll see one commodity kind of get ahead of one, or there'll be different timings, but in general, it's going to work like that. So anyway, hang loose and keep your nose above water, because I can tell you right now that a lot of what's going on today is like history repeating itself. The American Empire is, swear to God, it's got a lot of correlation to the old Roman Empire. And, during the time of Rome, people didn't really think they were in a decline, And when you're looking back, 2020, you say, yeah, this is what the reason was, that was the reason was. I think in the United States, we are in a decline. It can be reversed. Maybe it's being reversed right now with Trump, because he did surprise me about releasing those JFK files a lot. I thought he was going to knuckle under from the pressures not to do it, but he came through, man. He came through. And I don't even want to go down the trail with those things released, those things revealed, because they revealed so much. It's everything. I knew all this stuff before, but now it's proven, and it really dovetails into a lot of stuff that happened, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, a few years ago, and even recently. So I'm looking at that, and I'm saying to myself, a lot of people don't like this, the way things are going, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to create a major diversion, and it might be an economic calamity. That might be, because people will be too busy, with the economic calamity. And in my case, I'm telling you, man, I'm just hanging loose, because I don't want to, you know what I mean? It's like I said, if I got to go back to a lifestyle the way things were 70 years ago, fine. I'm all ready to do that. It's not the end of the world. It's not a problem. You know what I mean? Not a problem at all.